talk about how God has made you unique. How God has made each and every one of us unique. How He's made us different. And we're going to talk about it in the next 6 weeks. But we're going to talk about different things. We're going to start out kind of our basis for our scripture. It's going to be in Psalms 139. We're going to do 13 and 14. It says, "You made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex." Thank you for making me so wonderfully complex. I used to tell people all the time growing up, I was uniquely different. It was my nice way of saying, yes, I'm weird. I'm complex. But God made us uniquely complex. He made us different for a reason. In Job 10:8 it says, "Your hands formed and shaped me." Formed and shaped me. Look around here. There's not a single one of us with the exact same body shape. Not one of us. Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us are rounder, some of us are skinnier, some of us are squarer, some of us have facial hair, some can't. Some have gray, some don't. Some have hair, some don't. We're different. Every single one of us here are different. The problem is we all try to be the same. We all try to be exactly the same instead of embracing the fact that we are different. Instead of embracing the fact that God does not make mistakes. So the way you look, the way you're shaped, is by God's design. Now, we can alter that by not following God's rules, by not following God's commandments, by not living the way God wants us to live. So we're shaped, we look the way we look, based on the fact that God has a plan for us and He expects us to follow that plan. But we can alter that. You believe that? We can alter that. If God expects me to have a physical physique and I refuse to eat right, what am I doing to God's plan? What's going to happen to my body? Am I going to keep a physical, athletic body, or am I going to begin to become fat, to look sloppy? Our spiritual walk is the same way. God has designed us and gave us all special gifts and things that we're going to be talking about over the next 6 weeks to develop us into the spiritual body, the spiritual walk that God has for us. And we can choose to walk that way, which will be embrace our gifts, which will make us better, or we can choose to ignore them and not use them. And then we become weak. We become fat. We no longer understand the spiritual walk that God has for us. It's our choice. It's how we decide to do it. So what does God say about me based on what we just read? Number one, He says I'm unique. There's nobody else like me. My fingerprints are different than anybody else in this room. My DNA is different than anybody else in this room. My voice is different. Things about me, the way I walk. A dog can tell a person by the way they walk. That's how they determine who's who. So when a dog actually, when you see somebody and they do these trainings like the police dogs, German Shepherd dogs, they do the training with those dogs and they can tell an aggressive walk versus a calm walk. That if somebody walks up, the same person, like if I was going to attack Tyler, but I walked up nice and calm and said, "Hey Tyler," shook his hand, the dog won't bother me. But if I came to him in an attack mode, not even running, but just the way I carried my body, that dog would attack. That dog would know that there was something going on. It's a uniqueness that you carry that God has designed for you. You are unique, and you have to accept that you are unique. Like I said, I'm uniquely different. Not only am I unique, I'm only me, but I'm different than you. And I want you to understand that. I know I'm uniquely different. I am wonderfully made, and I'm complex. I'm wonderfully made, and I'm complex. People talk about us all the time. They're dating somebody and go, oh, you know what, they were just too complex. There's too many moving parts in their head, I couldn't keep up. That's how God made them. You weren't the right person for them because your moving parts in your head didn't match with their moving parts in their head, and therefore it was a clank and a clunk instead of a nice moving thing. So you move on. The other thing is, I am shaped for a purpose. You're shaped for a purpose. How many people have dogs? Okay. Certain dogs look a certain way. A husky looks one way. A lab looks another. A rat terrier looks another. Each one of those dogs are shaped different because of their purpose. Now, we may not today use them for their purpose, but originally they had a purpose. Huskies were pulling dogs. They were in the cold climate. That's why they got to have all that fur. A rat terrier used to go into the back in the older days when they were made, was to chase rats away and be able to go into the rat holes to get them. That's why they're little, tiny little dogs. Labs are hunting, fishing dogs. These dogs were made for a purpose. Now we got mixtures of two dogs because they're made for the purpose of having someone paying way too much money for a month. But the reality is these dogs were all made for a purpose. They were all used for a purpose. Their breed had a particular purpose. You have a particular purpose. And you're shaped specifically for that purpose that God has for you. Does that make sense? No, none of your dogs, some of them might be. But it's the same principle. It's the same concept. It's the same idea. So there's 5 parts of my body given shape that we're going to be talking about over the next 6 weeks. There's 5 parts. Okay, so we're going to use the word shape. So the first thing we're going to talk about is spiritual gifts. Okay? First thing we're going to be talking about is spiritual gifts. There are 20 spiritual gifts listed in the Bible. Okay? And most of them can be found in Ephesians 4:11, Romans 12:6 through 8, and 1 Corinthians 12:8 through 10, as well as 28 through 30. But in 1 Corinthians 7, verse 7b, it says, each man has his own gift from God. One has this gift, another has that. One has this gift, and the other has that. So none of us will have necessarily the same gifts, or have that gift in the same way. An example is, you see a young man, and you say, wow, he's a gifted athlete. He can play basketball like no one ever seen. You know, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was a great basketball player. Everybody would agree with that. That was his gift, was the ability. His gift was not to play baseball, but his gift was to play basketball. Was he the only one given the gift of basketball? No, or he had no one to play with. He had no one to play against. So there's other people that were given that gift, but everybody on that team had a different gift within basketball. Dennis Rodman, did he score a lot of points? No. What was Dennis Rodman's gift other than hair? Rebounds. Rebounds. You came into that paint, he was going to make sure that you didn't want to be there the second time. And he was going to get that rebound no matter what. That was his gift. Was Michael Jordan's gift rebounds? No. Could he rebound? Yeah, he could rebound. Jordan had rebounds. But it wasn't his gift. That wasn't what he was good at. Rodman wasn't good at shooting. I don't even know if he averaged 10 points a game or not. I don't think I've seen him shoot more than twice. He'd get the ball and throw it to Jordan, and Jordan would shoot it and make it, and he'd come back. It was almost that simple. I don't know who plays today, so if you don't know who I'm talking about with Jordan, I'm sorry. That was my age. That's what I remember. Was Michael Jordan. That was his gift. So you may have the same gift as somebody else, but it's at a different level. It's at a different way. It's at a different thing. So each one of us have a special gift. Each one of us has a spiritual gift. And in the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about, we're going to hone in on those gifts so that you can figure out what is your spiritual gift, so that you can start to exercise it. You can start to practice it. Michael Jordan practiced his basketball. He had the gift of basketball, but to become the greatest, what did he do? He practiced. He constantly practiced. For you to develop your spiritual gift that God gives you, you'll have a natural talent, but to actually perfect it, you'll have to know what it is, and then you'll have to practice it. You have to build on it. You have to continue to make it stronger. The next thing we're going to talk about after spiritual gift will be heart. Will be heart. God has put it into the hearts to accomplish His purpose. That's in Revelation 17:17. God has put it into their hearts to accomplish His purpose, which means your hearts is your passion, your drive to do God's work, to do what God has designed you to do, to use your gift for His purpose. That's where your heart comes from. In Philippians 2:13 it says, "For it is God who works in you, inspiring both the will and the deed for His own chosen purpose." It says, God who works in you, inspiring you. Inspiring. Every athlete you talk to has somebody that they looked up to, somebody that inspired them, a coach that pushed them a little bit further, to do a little bit more, to please them. You know, why did you do that? Well, I wanted my coach to be proud of me. I wanted my dad to be proud of me. I wanted my mom to just love me a little bit. They were inspired by somebody's hard work. Nobody had more heart than Jesus had for us. Nobody. Nobody had more love and passion for us than God had for us. And what did God do? He sent His only begotten Son to do what? To die. For each and every one of us here. That's heart. That was His passion. So God works in you, inspiring you. To inspire you. Anybody ever date somebody and say, oh, they inspire me to be creative. They inspire me to be a better person. They inspire me to do this. The word inspire goes a lot of people use that. I have been inspired by the sunset. I have been inspired by this, inspired by that. But the Bible says that God inspires you. Drives your passion, builds on your passion, your heart from God. The A for shape is your abilities. There are 800 to 900 abilities. 800 to 900 abilities. I do good to have one. So those that have more than one, congratulations. And I'm still trying to figure out what my one is, but I know I have one because the Bible says we all have abilities. Corinthians 12:6, it says, there are different abilities to perform service. There are different abilities to perform service. I'm learning that in the sense of a motorcycle. My son has a motorcycle we bought him, got a real good deal because it didn't really run. But beyond not running, the electrical system is messed up. Matter of fact, the electrical system doesn't exist. So we have all the cables, but they're not connected to anything. Like a bowl of spaghetti and a big pot to put it together and try to make it work. I got a manual. I read the manual. I don't understand Greek because that's what it looks like to me. Here's a red cord. It doesn't say to put it with another red cord. It just says connected to this. I don't know what this is. Makes no sense to me. So I start calling around, trying to find people that knew how to read Greek and knew how to put this thing together. Come to find out, you have to find somebody that specializes in electronics for motorcycles. Your normal garage mechanic can't figure this out because typically people don't rip out their electronics on a motorcycle. It's the motor is blown or the tires are messed up or something like that. It's something basically, quote unquote, according to them, simple. So I had to find somebody that had different abilities, that has the ability to rewire the bike. For all I know, it runs once the power gets to it. But right now, it's a very nice paperweight in my garage. It's a pretty bike. He gets on it, I can push him around like he's a little kid, and it looks sound. He goes, boom, you know, the whole 9 yards. But it ain't going nowhere by itself. I don't have the ability to fix it. I've tried. I don't have the ability to comprehend the electrical wiring diagram because the electrical wiring diagram is on a flat piece of paper. The bike is not flat. There's no step-by-step pictures like putting a model together. You know, you take part A, you put it with part B, and then all of a sudden your light works. To somebody that has the ability to comprehend that, it probably says to them, take part A and part B, connect them together, your lights come on. To me, it says, here's a bowl of spaghetti, see if you can't tie all the noodles together and make a rope. It doesn't work for me. I get nothing out of it. I don't have that ability. But God says that He has put, or showed me, there are different abilities to perform service. Each one of us have one. And none of them are more important than the other. They all have to go together in order. The guy that does the electricity is no more important than the guy that knows how to do the motor, because once I get the electricity to work, if the motor don't work, I need that guy's ability. And to make the bike actually run. So I need each person's ability to make things work. In Christ's body, He uses everybody's different ability to make the body move. My hands, I may be able to do a handstand, but the reality is, it's not considered walking without legs. My legs are the ability to walk. I can't grab things like I can with my hands with my legs. My feet don't have the ability to grasp like my hand does. It's a different ability, but they provide different services. And then in Exodus 31:3 it says, I, God, have given him skill, ability, and knowledge in all kinds of crafts. God says, I've given you the ability in all kinds of different crafts. Some of you are good at making things. Some of you are good at figuring things out. Some of you are good at telling people stuff and making them believe that what you're saying is true. You have the gift of speech, the gift of talk. Some of you are good with your hands. Some of you are not good with your hands. But everybody's abilities coming together is what builds things. The architect who designs a building isn't the one that actually builds the building. Matter of fact, most architects that I've met, which I haven't met them all, but the ones I have met don't know how to use a hammer. But they can draw a building that is beyond beautiful. What do they do with that drawing? They give it to the guy that knows how to make it. And when that guy says, dude, this can't be done, what does the architect do? Does he argue with him? He redraws it. Because he knows that he doesn't know how to actually build it. He just knows how to draw it and make it happen. He doesn't know how to do it, but he does know how to draw it and make it happen. So every one of us have a special ability to provide different crafts, different things that we do. And nobody's more important than the other. I used to hang around people that now they discuss me. But I used to hang around people that thought that guys that didn't have a college education, that weren't, in an office and had these, type of positions, your mechanics, your guys like my dad that was like a self-taught welder and things like that these people were below them. I don't hear it as much anymore, but you probably have heard the white collar versus the blue collar. Everybody know what I'm talking about? Blue and white collar? That used to be like the big thing. Oh, he's got a blue collar job, he's got a white collar job. Well, I used to aggravate everybody because blue is my favorite color, so when I wear my tie, I always wear blue collar. I always wear a blue shirt. So I'm a blue collar worker. Go to office every day because I'm a blue collar worker. But what happens to that white collar guy when his car doesn't work anymore? Where does he go? He goes to the blue collar guy. Hey, my car don't run anymore, can you fix it? Yeah, I can fix it. When something breaks in his house, who does he call? He calls the blue collar guy. Can you come fix it? Yes, I can fix it. Very rarely do the blue collar guys call the white collar guys to fix anything. But they always look down on those people because their craft or skill wasn't at their level, according to them. Wasn't what they did. But without those people, without the guys that knew how to use a hammer, without the guys that knew how to use a wrench, without the guys that understood how these things work, the rest of the people couldn't function. They couldn't move. They couldn't do the things that they enjoyed doing without it. It all came together. It all had to work together. Each craft had to come together in order to make things work. So our abilities are very, very important. The P in shape is personality. is personality. That's how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Your personality is the way you think, feel, and act. That's your personality. Okay? The thing I want you to remember with that is the root of your personality is the way we think. The root of your personality is how you think. So God has given you a specific personality so that that molds the way you think about things, which obviously plays into your abilities. If you are a complex thinker and you're able to see something and visualize it and be able to manipulate it in your mind so that you can make something work, or if you see something, you're able to make it happen out of nothing, or what others see nothing, that's your personality. That's who you are. I used to talk to people all the time about in management. And in management, when you're starting out in the beginning, it's kind of like what God did. But you start in the beginning, and people don't understand where you're going. They don't understand the vision. You can explain to them, but they don't see it. All they see is chaos and mess. So I tell them it's kind of like this. And this is how I explain personality, is you have a lump of clay. So if I stood a lump of clay right here in the front, how many people would see anything other than a lump of clay sitting up here? Some people would say, I see a lump of clay. That's all I see. But someone with a creative personality will start seeing a bird, start seeing an elephant, start seeing something else. And then they start touching it. And they start moving that clay and start developing. And as that clay starts to move and start to get developed, what happens to you? What do you start seeing? You start seeing whatever they're making too. You can start making it out that that's what it's going to. Their personality allows them to see that lump of clay as more than a lump of clay. Your personality may be more of a concrete thinker. You know, if I go this way, I'm going to hit that wall, I know it. Plain and simple. That's concrete thinking. That's common sense. That's normal. Someone else may say, if I go this way and I hit it just right and I do this, whatever, the wall will actually move. And they're creative. They're thinking about it. They're processing it a different way. The two are very important, but they're two different personalities. There's two different abilities to do something. Does that make sense? Some people have the personality that they love to go outdoors, and they love to camp, and they love to do all that stuff. Well, if there's a disaster, I'm going to love that guy a lot, because he knows how to live outside. He knows how to do without. Some people's personality is, I don't ever want to be outside. I want to stay in the house all the time. And those people are good at learning how to survive inside a house by themselves, but they can't function outside. Their personalities are different. And those personalities are given by God because God has a purpose behind each and every one of us. Proverbs 4:23 says, your life is shaped by your thoughts. Your life is shaped by your thoughts. So if you think you're nothing, what happens to your life? Can you be successful thinking you're nothing? No, it's impossible. Because your thoughts start to become the reality. Start to become who you are. So if you think you're a son of God, if you think that you're a child of God, if you think that God loves you and cares about you, what does that do to you? Do you feel useless? Do you feel worthless? You can't. That elevates you. And then that becomes who you are. You begin to become something that you didn't know you were. You begin to learn your true personality. And I know I'm just giving you little pieces of all this. After the 6 weeks, we're going to dive into each one of them. But I want you to be thinking about it as we come up to the next one. And then the last part of shape is our experiences. In Romans 8:28 it says, and we know that all that happens to us is working for our good if, there's that if, we love God and are fitting into His plans. If. So all the things we go through, everything we go through life is shaping us to be something else. Experiences to me is like woodworking. And I like working on the lathe. And so I play with it every now and then. It's one of my favorite things right now to do. Because I can take a log or a board or whatever and stick it on there, and I can begin to shape it to what I envision in my mind it to be. And the tools that I use are like experiences for that wood, because some of the experiences, some of those tools will cut really deep into the wood and shape it very quickly. And it shapes it very, very quickly. And then some of them are more fine-tuning tools that just takes thin layers off to kind of get the nicks out, that kind of smooths it out a little bit better. Our experiences are the same thing, because when I'm done, for those that have seen the things I make, to me, they're pretty cool. It's amazing. I tell Chris all the time, and I'm not bragging, but I'm like, it amazes me that I made this. I would be dangerous if I knew what I was really doing. Because I'll get a tool, and I'll buy the things with it, and I'll just start playing until I figure it out. That's just my personality. That's who I am. But it's the experience that that wood goes through is what changes that wood and makes it into what it is I'm trying to make. What it is I'm trying to design. As long as that wood allows me. Now, sometimes that wood won't allow me. It'll crack. Right down the middle says, I'm not letting you make me into what you want. And it cracked. Now, I know wood don't have mind and whatever, but it's that same concept. It'll crack down the middle and I can't go. Or I'll get all the way down to where I want and find out that a part of the middle of that wood was rotten. And now the whole project is ruined. I can't do anything with it. Or I change my mind and I start doing something else. Experiences that we go through life is the same thing. Every experience we go through changes us and molds us as long as we're giving and accepting that we're doing it to fulfill God's plans. And we accept those experiences that we go through as saying, this is part of God's plan, and He's going to make me better. He's shaping me into something better. And sometimes it's a big chunk, and it hurts. And if you've ever come over and watched me play with it, there's like big pieces of wood flying all over the place, and there's a big mess, and then I get the smaller one, and there's smaller pieces of wood. And then when I finally get close to what I want, I take the sandpaper, and I start working with it with sandpaper. And that's the things with our life, with our experiences. Is sometimes God allows big chunks to come out. Big things happen to us that just seem like they're destroying us. And big chunks of things start to fall off. And then God says, okay, now you're down to this part. Let me get the smaller one and start giving you some experiences that are not quite so painful, but they're still shaping you. And then God says, okay, you look like what I want, but I'm not done yet. I still got to smooth you out. And sanding is the longest process of that whole thing I do on the lathe. It is the longest and hardest and most tedious process. It's just sit there constantly. It's boring. Just sit there with the sandpaper and constantly working and turn the machine off and look at the wood. Because when it's spinning, it looks beautiful. And I turn it off and it's like, I got this spot over here. So I got to turn it back on and I'm there with the sandpaper again over and over and over. So constant changes are happening to that wood with the experience of me rubbing that sandpaper on it. Constant changes are occurring to you by the experiences. Some are good, some are bad, some are big, some are small. But God is constantly shaping you through those experiences. And He gets to the hard part. And that's every day of just sitting there sanding pieces to get you where you need to be. So the little experiences you have, the arguments that you have with somebody, the disagreements, the flat tire that you didn't expect to have, the running out of gas, the this happening, the car breaking down, the bike breaking down, those things will build you because that's an experience that God is going to use to build something else, that shapes you into something else, to teach you a lesson that you won't forget. But more importantly, that lesson you'll share with somebody else. And maybe they won't go through that experience that you went through. Maybe they won't suffer what you do. So experiences are important. The thing to remember about my shape is it's interrelated. It means it's me, it's mine, and God. It's interrelated. It's fixed. My shape is fixed. God's made me this way. This is the way I am. It's fixed. Okay? And it's irrepressible. So, why must I understand my shape? Why is all that important? You know, can I not just go through life willy-nilly, whatever? Que sera, sera, whatever will be, will be. Is that how God intended our lives to be? No purpose, just walking down the street, whatever happens, happens. No? No. So it's important that we learn our shape and understand our shape so we can understand how to be used by God. Understand what God has for us, what it is He's looking for us to do. So there's 4 benefits to understanding your shape. Okay? The first one is, believe it or not, if you understand your shape, it reduces your stress. It reduces your stress. If you understand your shape. If you understand why God has made you the way you are and what God is wanting to do with that, it decreases your stress. In Galatians 6:4, he says, do your work well, and then you will have something to be proud of, but don't compare yourself with others. Don't compare yourself to others, but do your work well. Be you the best that you can be. Be you the best that you can be. Don't try to be somebody else. That causes stress. Don't try to live up to somebody else's standards. That causes stress. Only try to live up to God's standards. Only try to live up to what God has made you. Only be who you are. When I was growing up in high school, and some of you may have had the same kind of kids, but we had the cool kids. We had the okay kids. You know, they were just the majority of the kids that were just whatever. Nobody really paid attention. They were just normal, quote unquote. And then we had the not so cool kids. And everybody picked on the not so cool kids. And they were the ones that would wear the plaid pants and the funky shirts and suspenders and all this stuff that people made fun of and would pick on them. And as I got older, I started thinking about those guys, and I thought, you know what? Those guys right there, those 10, 15 kids that dressed the way they dressed, that acted the way they acted, they were the bravest ones of all the people at school. Because they knew who they were, and they were okay with it. No matter what, no matter who picked on them, no matter who made fun of them. They didn't have to have the special genes to fit in with the in crowd. They didn't have to change who they were to feel good about themselves. They didn't have to modify who they were. They were who God made them to be. They were brave. They were smart. The rest of us walked around full of stress because we wanted to be to someone else. You know, I can't afford those shoes, Mom. I know they're $100, but I gotta have them because everybody else has them. I know we can't afford these jeans, Mom, but everybody else has these jeans. If you just buy me one pair, I'll wash them every night. Nobody will know. We got caught up in the stress of trying to live our life for somebody else. So if you understand your shape, you will only live your life for God. And once you live your life for God, you completely release yourself for God, you will have less stress. The second one is it increases success. You understand yourself, your shape, you have stress. It says, Ephesians 5:17, it says, don't act thoughtlessly, but try to find out and do whatever the Lord wants you to do. Don't act thoughtlessly, but try to find out and do whatever the Lord wants you to do. So, would God ever ask you to do something that would make you a failure? Would He ever call you to do something in intents of hurting you or to make you fail? Has He called anybody in the Bible that you know of in the intents of having them fail? No. No. God's nature is not for you to fail. He only has good for you, remember? So why in the world would we not want to understand our shape so we can be more successful? People that fail at jobs typically fail because they haven't found what it is they're supposed to be doing. And some of that's true. I have fired good people and just strictly told them, look, you're good at this, you're just not good at this. And this is what I need. So I can't use you. But I recommend you go and do this because you'll be very successful. Because this is what you're good at. And directed them and saying, this is what you're good at, you need to go do this. And most of them cussed me out and I never heard from them again. Some of them cussed me out and I'd hear from them later and say, hey, you know what, I have been happier than I've ever been since I moved and started doing this job. Because this is what I like to do. And this is what I want to do. So you will be more successful if you understand your shape, you understand your gifts that God has given you. Yeah, it really does. It deepens satisfaction. It deepens satisfaction. Galatians 6:4 says, "Be sure to do what you should, for then you will enjoy the personal satisfaction of having done your work well." Who doesn't like the satisfaction of knowing you did a good job? I don't know anybody that is happy about doing a poor job, by doing things halfway, by barely getting by. Truly. Now, they may be ecstatic that they got away with it. But the reality is they know that they didn't do as good as they could. They're not satisfied with the work that they put in. If you're doing anything halfway, you're not doing what God has asked you to do. You're not using your shape. You're not getting satisfaction in yourself. Yes, you're satisfied that it's done, but are you really truly happy in the job you get? When I would work with Seth about how to cut grass and stuff, what I would ask him is, if I gave you $30 and told you to pay somebody for doing this job for you, would you give them your money for what you just did for me? No. In most cases his answer was no, and he'd go back and do it right. Because he wouldn't have been satisfied with paying somebody for doing a job that he had done. But he was satisfied with it because he was getting it done. That's all he cared about. But he realized it really wasn't good. He wasn't really satisfied with the job that he did. He was satisfied with the fact that it was done, and he thought he got away with it. But when I said, you can pay a guy for doing it, would you give this guy your $30, your hard-earned money, for the work that he just did? No, I wouldn't. Well, why should I? Why should you do that work for me? God's the same way. I paid with my son's blood for you to have the ability to do these things. Why are you doing it halfway? You want to be satisfied? Give it all. Give me everything, and you will be satisfied with what you're doing. The fourth thing it does is it builds self-esteem. It builds self-esteem. There's two truths about self-esteem. One, you need to understand that you matter to God. You matter to God. And number two is you're shaped for God's purpose. That right there should take care of your self-esteem. If you got self-esteem issues, I just solved them for you. That would be $60 an hour. So you owe me $60. Because that's all you got to know. You matter to God, and God shaped you for His purpose. So you have a purpose. So your self-esteem. But in Romans 5:8, since you need a little bit more than my words, it says, "But God demonstrates His own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. 2 Timothy 1:9 says, "It is He who saved us and chose us for His holy work, not because we deserve it, but because that was His plan." So, self-esteem wise, do you think you matter? Just those two scriptures, not the thousands of scriptures we can pull out. Just those two scriptures. Do you think you matter to God?
Yes.
Yeah. You matter to God. Who's more important than God? Who is higher than God as far as trying to please, as far as trying to live up to a certain standard? Who is higher than God in your life? Those that have low self-esteem, why do you have low self-esteem? Because you're judging yourself based on everybody else. You're judging yourself based on other people's standards, society's standards, on the words of the devil, on the words of people that are trying to hurt you. You're not basing yourself on what God says about you, what God thinks of you. You don't realize that God matters, that God's thoughts, God's opinion of me is the opinion that really matters. And if you understand that you're shaped for God's purpose, that also builds your self-esteem because you have a purpose, you have a reason. People that have low self-esteem believe they have no purpose. Why am I here? I'm useless. The whole Eeyore effect. Okay, yeah, I knew it was going to rain on me today. Yeah. You believe in God's purpose, thank God it rained today. God knew somebody needed this rain. Maybe the rain was to get the bugs off your windshield of your bike or off your cut. Maybe the rain was needed because somebody else was having a drought and their well was about to run dry. And God gave them rain so that they could have drinking water for them and their family. Maybe it was raining because the farmers' crops were drying out. And God knew that we needed the food, so He made it rain so they could have it. But for me, I'm frustrated because it ruined my day because it rained. And it's woe is me. Instead of looking at it as what is God's purpose. So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to look at that shape. We're going to look at your spiritual gifts and help us understand out of those spiritual gifts, which one do you have? And then we're going to look at your heart and how to prepare our heart to be able to do what God wants us to do. In our abilities. What ability do you have? What personality do you have? Everybody in here has a different personality. Some of us are quick to anger. I mean, great warriors, you make them mad, they're ready to punch you in the face. Great warriors. Others are more thinkers. They don't talk much. They don't get angry quick. They think things through. Or strategizing how to make things happen. What's your personality? And then what experiences has God put you through that you can use to glorify Him? That He's going to use to bring somebody else to you. One of the verses I want you to remember, one of the verses that I think this week would be a great verse to have written down somewhere for you, especially if you're going through something, especially if you're struggling with feeling like you matter. And it's found in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 10. And it says, by the grace of God. You got to hear this part, so I'm waiting to make sure everybody's got eyeballs on it, because this is awesome. It says, by the grace of God, I am what I am. I am what I am. So no matter what anybody else tells you, no matter what the devil is whispering in your ear, you am what I am. I think of Popeye every time I've read that. I am what I am. I am what I am. I think he said it with a Y. I am what I am. So obviously Popeye was saved because he never had relations with olive oil. He never did any of that. He adopted a son, and he knew that he was what he was. He knew he was what he was. And he only beat up Ruto when he hit him first. Self-defense. Always self-defense with Popeye. Your fight with the devil is the same way. You have to be comfortable with knowing that you are who you are because of the grace of God. Only because of the grace of God you am who you are. So don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody try to tell you that you are nobody. Don't let anybody try to tell you that you're useless. Depression in a church is rampant. But depression in the church is only rampant because people aren't teaching each other the truth. Plain and simple. They're not being taught the truth. Because if you knew the truth, if you knew who you were in God, if you knew you were shaped by God for a particular purpose, you would have the inability to be depressed. Because nothing makes anybody feel better than having somebody else tell them, I need you. You're important to me. Can you help me? Can you do this for me? That gets everybody all excited. The most depressed person, you call them up and says, I can't figure this out. Can you come help me? What happens to their spirits get lifted? If you knew that your shape was designed by God, if you knew God had a purpose for you every single day that you walk this earth, how would you be depressed and feeling useless? How would you feel worthless if you truly understood what it is God wants you to do? So over the next 6 weeks, my hope is that we will dive in together as a church family and we will identify our individual shape, what it is that God has for us, so that we can use those things to fight anytime somebody else tells us we're not. Anytime the devil tells us you are not worthy, anytime anybody tries to keep us from serving God and being happy in His grace.